Hey people, welcome back to the channel. This is a story in which Naruto meets Kurama in the land of waves and they have a mutual friendship. In this story Naruto shifts toward his mother's side as a Uzumaki seal master. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Leave a comment if you want to suggest fanfic. Check the description for credits and support the creator of the story. So let us begin. Chapter 58. Promotions, UHG. Where am I? Said a dreary Naruto as he opened his eyes. He slowly tried to pick himself up from the lying position he was in, but his entire body hurt like hell. Naruto could tell he was lying in a bed and from the looks of it, he was in the hospital. Still, despite the pain, Naruto found he was able to move his head without much effort and he began looking around more until he found a bed placed opposite of his on the other side of the room. In it was Sasuke, and like Naruto, he was bandaged up as well and sleeping from the looks of it. Sasuke, called out Naruto. No response. Oi. Sasuke. Still no response. Naruto looked around to the table next to him. Sitting on the table were a few cards, a box of candy, and a fruit basket. Naruto figured he'd start with the candy first as he struggled to toss the pieces at Sasuke. A few pieces of the candy hit Sasuke on the face. Still nothing. Naruto needed something heavier and those apples in the fruit basket looked like they would do the job. Ouch. What the hell? Shouted Sasuke as an apple landed smack dab on his nose. Sasuke shot up to see an innocent-looking Naruto across the room. He sent a glare at the blonde before looking around to see that they were in the hospital. What happened? I don't know. Last thing I remember was using the Rasengan and it colliding with your Chidori. You? Asked Naruto. Same here. I used the Chidori against your Rasengan and the next thing I know, some idiot pelts me with an apple. Sasuke glared directly at Naruto, who was trying his best to look innocent while rubbing the back of his head. Unfortunately, the fruit basket on the table next to him didn't help much. Oh good, you two are awake, said Tsunade as she entered the room. She was smiling and in an unusually cheerful mood. Tsunade walked over to Sasuke and smiled at him before smacking him upside the head. Naruto burst out in laughter before being smacked as well. What was that for, Bachan? Yelled Naruto as a tick appeared on Tsunade's forehead. Apparently her time of not being called Bachan was up. Quiet brat. And that was for nearly blowing each other up, yelled Tsunade as Naruto and Sasuke shrank back into their respective beds at the sight of an angry Tsunade. You guys can come in now. Hinata and Sakura were the first ones in and they were immediately beside their boyfriends' Crush's bedside. The remaining members of the Konoha 14 followed along with the Jonin senseis and Jiraiya. Damn, that was some fight the two of you had, commented Kiba. Speaking of which, who won? I kicked Sasuke Tem's ass, right? Asked Naruto. Tisk. Like you could ever kick my ass, Dobi, replied Sasuke. Yeah. Come over here and I'll gladly kick it for you right now. Replied Naruto. Enough, shouted Tsunade. The match was called a draw as that blast from the Rasengan and Chidori slammed you both back into the wall and knocked you both out. A stupid thing to do. You're both lucky you weren't killed. Naruto and Sasuke merely grinned nervously at Tsunade. Neither Naruto nor Sasuke liked the fact that their match was called as a draw, but they had to accept it for now. Hey, Naruto was the first one to speak. I guess that means I'll just have to train even harder so I can kick your ass around the village 100 times when I get back. PFT. You mean I'll be kicking your ass around the village, right? Retorted Sasuke. Everyone in the room merely sweat dropped. They knew it would be too good to be true. If anything, that previous match had only made their rivalry more intense. Sasuke was the first to calm down. 3 years, huh? Naruto also regained himself. Yeah, replied Naruto. No one was happy that either Naruto or Sasuke would be leaving for 3 years. Especially a certain pair of girls. Hinata had finally gotten Naruto and they had grown close over the past months, but now he was going to be leaving. Sakura, While she had dropped the useless fangirl attitude ages ago, she still had deep feelings for Sasuke, something that Ino mentioned Sasuke was starting to return, if only a little. Both of the girls would be without the ones they cared about for 3 years, and one might be left unsure of the feelings her crush had towards her. Just promise me you won't come back a useless loser. I want to fight you again, but only after you've become stronger, smirked Sasuke. Naruto returned the grin. I'll fight you any time you're ready to lose. And it'll be you who's left in my dust, replied Naruto. Troublesome, thought the obvious choice. Speaking of time, how long were we out? Asked Naruto. You've been out since yesterday afternoon, replied Tsunade. Actually, I expected Sasuke to be out for at least another day. Yeah, well, it's pretty hard to sleep when you've got a knucklehead baka pelting you with apples, retorted Sasuke. So does that mean you announced who gets promoted? Am I finally getting promoted? Come on, tell me Ba-chan, asked Naruto in annoying brat mode. The energy returning to him. Calm down. And no, I have not announced the promotions yet. As I told everyone else, you'll find out tomorrow after the council and I discuss the results of the exam. Speaking of which, I have a council meeting to attend, said Suand. Naruto, you're free to go after an initial checkup. We all know how fast you can recover. Sasuke, seeing as you don't have a giant fox sealed inside him, you won't be cleared to leave until at least tomorrow, and even then you're going to be taking it easy for the rest of the week. Tsunade left the hospital towards the Hokage Tower as Naruto was taken into another room to be checked over. As usual, he was healed for the most part now thanks to the Kyuubi's chakra in his system and was allowed to leave. However, he would have to take it easy for a few days. After a little more talking when Naruto came back, everyone began to leave. Sakura would be the last one out, leaving Sasuke and Kakashi to discuss a few things. Sakura, can you stay for just a moment? Sasuke called out. He looked towards Kakashi and the one-eyed scarecrow nodded before leaving. Now that the exams were over, after everything that had happened, he figured a moment or two alone might be good for them. On the way out of the hospital, Naruto passed Hiyashi coming out of a hospital room, most likely Neji's. Neji and Lee were the only two who hadn't come to see him as they were both hospitalized. Neji had a broken arm, fractured hip, and a minor case of chakra exhaustion. Lee had a dislocated shoulder and multiple torn muscles from using the gates. Both would be in the hospital for the rest of the week before being released. For a brief moment, Naruto stopped into Neji's room while Hinata went on with her father to find Hanabi. Apparently, Hanabi wanted to go kimono shopping with Hinata. The festival was exactly a week from now, and honestly Naruto couldn't wait. He had honestly never been to a festival. There were 3 main festivals in Konoha. New Year's, which began on the eve of the New Year and continued through the next day. Then there was the Festival of the Budding Leaf, commemorating the founding of Konoha, held on March 21st of each year. The final big festival was what some villagers called the Kyuubi Festival, held on October 10th. In reality, the festival was called the Yondaime Festival to commemorate the Yondaime's sacrifice. Naruto had missed the most recent festival, New Year's, because he was with Jiraiya in Uzushiogakure and this would be his last chance at attending one. For nearly 3 years. The reasons why Naruto never went to a festival varied. Why he never went to the Kyuubi festival was obvious, but the other 2 were because he never had anyone to go with. Especially at this time of year, he had always been reminded of what he didn't have, friends and family. But this year was different. He had friends and he even had a date to go to the festival with. Exciting him for once about a festival. Naruto talked to Neji for a few moments before leaving. He was going to stop in to see Lee, but cries of youth coming from Lee and the sound of another voice, which was most likely Gai-sensei, had him thinking otherwise. It was then his stomach began to grumble, looked like ramen time. Tsunade entered the council chambers. Seated around the table was the shinobi council, comprised of Nara Shikaku, Yamanaka Inoichi, Akamaiki Chusa, Inazuka Sume, Aburame Shibi, Kurama Unkai, Sarutobi Asuma, Hyuga Hiyashi, Jiraiya, and finally Senju Tsunade. Very well, let's get underway with the deliberations regarding the Chunin exams. As follows, everyone at this table gets a vote on whether or not a Chunin candidate will receive a promotion. I myself will have 3, 2 is allowed by law to the Hokage and 1 is the representative of the Senju clan. In order to receive a promotion, a Chunin candidate requires 7 or more votes, announced Suand. Now, I feel we should just go through this alphabetically, which means Aburame Shino. Based on the exam results, the boy does demonstrate a high degree of tactical knowledge and skill. I will support his promotion to the rank of Chunin, said Shikaku. Even though he lost his second match against Gaara, he does show the skills befitting of a strategic thinker, added Inoichi. Seeing as no candidate is required to win a match, let alone both of them, I find that Aburame Shino has indeed met the requirements of Chunin. As they went around the table, Shino received approval from everyone, and by the time it got back to Tsunade, her votes no longer mattered. Very well. I see no issues. Aburame Shino will be granted the rank of Chunin. I believe next would be Haruno Sakura. My understanding is that she's well versed in genjutsu and medical ninjutsu. I have heard about the medical ninjutsu from my team when she healed them after an unfortunate encounter with the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi. For only studying it for a few months, she already is showing some amazing potential in that area. The genjutsu, I have had the pleasure of witnessing in battle, and she was able to use it well to outmaneuver her opponents, commented Asuma. That genjutsu she had used in her recent battle against Tamari was surprisingly strong for a Chunin candidate. I even had trouble at first seeing through it with my Byakugan. Of course it was easy to do after I increased the power, but still impressive for someone of her age, commented Hiyashi. He had added that last part about finally being able to see through it to save himself a little, but he did find it difficult to see through the genjutsu until he focused a good amount of chakra into his Byakugan. She is clever. And she has even helped my daughter refocus herself, said Inoichi. Again, the votes were unanimous for Sakura. Haruno Sakura will be granted the rank of Chunin, said Tsunade. Next I believe is a string of 3 Hyugas. Let's start with Hinata. Anything to say, Hiyashi? I do not wish to give her praise simply because she is a member of my clan, let alone my daughter, but the skills she displayed in the arena, primarily against her opponent in the first round, were impressive, commented Hiyashi. Hyuga-san, if I may. That style she used at the exams is not the Juken, and it was interesting to see how she changed to it during her first match to adapt to the fight. Would you mind explaining a little? Asked Shibi. Hiyashi explained some of the very basics to Hinata's style, the Jusho. Unkai then spoke up. My problem with her performance was that she seemed to rely too much on taijutsu techniques, said Unkai. As his clan was comprised of genjutsu users, he naturally favored those with talent in genjutsu, such as Sakura. Then again, this was also the argument he made against every Hyuga and taijutsu user who was put up for promotion. What's wrong with getting up close and personal? Argued Sum. As usual, the Inuzuka head and Kurama head got into a bit of an argument, and Suand noticed a familiar look on Jiraiya's face, one that was focused downward and not on the current conversation. She stood up and walked around the table to look over Jiraiya's shoulder, only to find that he had a certain orb and was giggling pervertedly. Pervert, she shouted, slamming her fist into his head and his head into the table before collecting the crystal ball from him that he had focused on the local hot springs. Troublesome, sighed Shikaku. Inoichi and Hiyashi just nodded in agreement. They were wondering how long it would take before something along these lines occurred, and there was always something. It was common for Sum and Unkai to get locked into some sort of heated debate like this. Seeing as the meeting wasn't going to be back underway anytime soon, Inoichi pulled out a bag of candy and began lobbing peace towards Hiyashi, who managed to deflect them with chakra bursts while Chuza tried to catch the incoming candy with his mouth. These childish antics continued for about 15 minutes before Tsunade had everything back in order. Hyuga Hinata will receive the rank of Chunin, said Tsunade. Hiyashi was mentally cheering. Hinata's flak jacket would be another thing he could rub in the elders' faces. Hyuga Neji is next. Great. Another taijutsu user, commented Unkai, earning a glare from Sum. That aside, Neji is indeed skilled. It's a shame he had to lose his first match the way he did, commented Shikaku as he looked over towards Hiyashi. However, that can't be helped. It's not his fault he has some sort of seal on him. That seal is trouble. It's interlocked directly with the neurons in the brain, and every method I know to remove it has failed, commented Jiraiya. You're trying to remove it? Asked Chuza. Everyone looked towards Hiyashi for some sort of reaction. Yes, we are, said a stern Hiyashi. No one could honestly believe that the Hyuga head was actually trying to remove the Hyuga seal. Anyways, back on topic, again, said Suand. Hyuga Neji, promotion or no? The votes went around. Hyuga Neji, promoted to Chunin, commented Tsunade. Next, Hyuga Shinji. No, said every member simultaneously. Wow, that was fast. Not even going to discuss? Asked Suand, trying to hold back the laughter. What else is there to say? He got his ass handed to him by Neji and the way in which he won was most shameful. Not to mention the little stunt that he pulled in his second match, commented Sum. Anything to say, Hiyashi? He is from your clan after all, asked Asuma. Yes. I can firmly say that Shinji's actions were most shameful. He will be punished by our clan. Also, if I am correct, any promotion, which I agree he does not deserve, would be wasted on him as Suan-sama here has informed me that he will never have the chakra levels to perform more than normal civilian tasks, said Hiyashi. Very well, Hyuga Shinji will not be receiving a promotion. Hiyashi, I'll talk to you later about his punishment. He did break the rules by using the seal on Neji during his and Hyunta's fight, commented Tsunade. Hiyashi nodded. Rock Lee would be next. Taijutsu user, scoffed Unkai. Sum. Shot him a glare and Shukaku sighed. My concern with Lee is that he's too attached to Guy and a little too rash, commented Asuma. He may be a good fighter and good kid, but he's too guy-like for his own good. Although, he does have quite a bit of power, said Sum. Being able to open 4 of the gates like that is an incredible feat for someone his age. I think the question here is, does he possess the mind of a Chunin, not the skills? I think we all agree that his skills in taijutsu are without a doubt, Chunin level if not greater, said Hiyashi. He has inherited the same attitude as his mentor. No concern for his own body so long as he can see his dreams through, said Tsunade. And what, if I may ask, are his dreams? Asked Unkai. He wants to prove that despite not being able to use nin or genjutsu, that he can become a splendid ninja who can protect his friends and comrades, said Tsunade. It's not that he's a taijutsu user by choice, although he seems quite happy with it. It's that taijutsu is the only path in becoming a ninja that he can take, said Jiraiya. Still, he has some potential to think as a Chunin. He took advantage quite well of Temari's attacks, using them to take his own weights off when he couldn't, added Shikaku. I'll give him my vote. While I do agree that he has potential, I regret to say that I don't think he is ready for the duties that so I must withhold my vote from him, said Asuma. He had nothing against Lee, just that he felt Lee was currently a little too reckless for a Chunin at the moment and felt the bushy-browed genin needed to mature slightly. I don't know, I like the kid and he's got the guts to go far, said Sum. I'll say yes. Being a Chunin requires more than just taijutsu and guts. If he cannot use nin or genjutsu, I don't see him going far, said Unkai. I'm going to say nay. As a medic, I can't agree with some of his actions that normally land him in the hospital, but he does have the will to carry on as a Chunin. I'll give him one of my votes, but withhold the others, commented Tsunade, giving Lee 3 of the necessary 7 votes. I will give him mine, said Chuza. Inoichi followed and Hiyashi did the same. While I agree he might be a bit reckless, the kid does seem willing to go the distance for his comrades. He has the attitude to see to his comrades' well-being. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this one, said Jiraiya. Shibi simply remained silent and nodded, indicating he was giving his vote. Lee received 8 votes, the fewest of anyone passing so far, but still passing. Very well, Rock Lee will receive a promotion. Next I believe is Uchiha Sasuke, said Tsunade. If I may, I would like to discuss Sasuke and Naruto together, said Hiyashi. Tsunade nodded, but not before hearing rusting outside the room and the door open. Sorry we're late, but apparently we weren't informed about the meeting, commented a woman by the name of Ruchika Hataka. Suand and the rest of the Shinobi Council groaned. They were hoping to get through this without the Civilian Council intervening. The Civilian Council consisted of Ruchika Hataka, Konoha's Director of Civilian Affairs, Katazana Rochi, Konoha's Finance Minister, Kudaki Renza, Konoha's Secretary of Education, Ikira Takamo, Konoha's Secretary of Commerce, and the 2 elected representatives Fuzukani Amira and Hicho Kotanichi. Along with the village advisors, Udatane Kaharu, Mitokado Homaru, and Shimura Danzo, these individuals made up the civilian portion of the Konoha Council. The Shinobi Council saw these individuals as a bunch of power-hungry, ignorant people who only had their best interests at hand instead of the village. They had honestly been hoping to get through the promotions without them showing up, as they always made the promotion process more difficult, even though they didn't have a say in who gets promoted. Suan saw why Hiashi wanted to discuss Naruto and Sasuke together. The civilian council would most certainly oppose Naruto, while strongly support Sasuke, and Hiashi must have seen them coming thanks to his eyes. Now Tsunade, why have you called us here? Asked Ruchika in a disrespectful tone. Tsunade's eyebrow twitched. We have important things that need to be done. We were just going over the results of the Chunin exams. However, if you have more important things that need to be done, of course you are dismissed to see to them, said Tsunade. Nonsense, this is important, said Fuzukani as most of the Shinobi Council cursed under their breath. I hope you haven't come to any rash decisions without our input. Currently, Aburame Shino, Haruno Sakura, Hyuga Hinata, Hyuga Neji, and Rock Lee have all been approved for promotions. Hyuga Shinji has been denied, and we still have yet to deliberate on Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, said Tsunade, trying to catch the ignorant fools up to speed. Oh, Uchiha-sama most certainly deserves to be promoted. He should have been promoted last exam, but sadly his match was interrupted by Orochimaru, said Ikira. The way in which he referred to Sasuke told the Shinobi Council everything. These buffoons only truly cared about getting on Sasuke's good side, even if Sasuke hated them almost as much as his fangirls. Speaking of fangirls, a good portion of Sasuke's fangirls were, by pure coincidence, related to the civilian council. However, we don't understand why you've even brought that thing into this conversation. He doesn't deserve to be a ninja, let alone a chunin, spoke Hicho. I believe you have your decision, Tsunade. Sasuke-sama is to be promoted while the thing should be kicked out of the ninja program altogether. In fact, he should be executed for trying to kill Uchiha-sama during their match, said Ruchika, raising her voice for the last part. There was a loud crash in the room and everyone looked to Tsunade, whose hand was embedded in a splintered table. Enough! Shouted Tsunade. I don't know where you all got that arrogance, but I should remind you that the promotion of shinobi is a power granted only to the Shinobi Council. Everyone on the shinobi side of the council could feel the tension in the room rise, and they were all smart enough not to interfere. However, the same couldn't be said for Ruchika, who Tsunade had by the shirt collar. Why, I've never. How dare you talk to me like that, Tsunade? Show some respect. I am a member of the village council, yelled Ruchika. I demand some respect. You are a member of the civilian council of a shinobi village. A shinobi village that I just happened to be the Hokage of, making me the leader of said village, growled Tsund. Right now, every fiber of her being wanted to pummel the stuck-up lady, but it wouldn't look good. You say I don't know my place. You don't know yours. I don't know how Sandame-sama ever gave you so much breathing room, but you are the civilian council and you are only to concern yourselves with civilian affairs. What happens to my shinobi is none of your concern, and you'll do good to remember that. Tsunade shot a large amount of ki towards the civilian council, making all but the three advisors keel over in fear. Oh, and you will refer to me as either Tsunade-sama or Hokage-sama from now on. Now take your seats and remain quiet until we are done with the exam results. Yes, Tsunade-sama, growled out Ruchika. Good. Now back to the proceedings. Let's see, Uchiha Sasuke, said Tsunade. While I am tempted to have him fail, just to see the looks on the council's face, that is not fair to Sasuke. In the past, I had doubts about him and his stability, said Jiraiya. I was afraid that he was going to turn out as some stuck-up prick who thought he deserved everything just because of his heritage and everything that happened, ultimately leading to him defecting the village in search of someone who would simply hand him power with no regards for the price of said power. But, he has proven me wrong and has really matured as a shinobi of this village. If I'm correct, during the second exam, Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke fought off a group of 15 Iwa ninja, commented Chuza. That was all Sasuke's doing, blurted out Katazana. Tsunade shot the elder finance minister a glare that said, "Shut up before I rip your throat out," and the civilian member was silenced. I looked through Sasuke's mind when we returned to Konoha when I had a chance, and I will say that all three of them worked well to protect each other, said Inoichi. He had also seen the reason why the Iwa ninja attacked, but was ordered by Tsunade to keep that silent and just say that Iwa had a general grudge against Konoha. All three of them deserve equal credit for surviving something like that. I will admit that he is very skillful in his combat, and that last match showed that he is at least high chunin in that regards, if not low jonin, said Shibi. He did show that he does have tactical knowledge out on the field in both matches, and that he could also react quick enough to changing conditions, said Shikaku. Tsunade called for votes and the results were well in Sasuke's favor. Uchiha Sasuke will receive a promotion to rank of Chunin. I believe that leaves Uzumaki Naruto. Before I actually saw it, I was skeptical that Naruto truly was an Uzumaki. However, those seals that he performed in the midst of battle leave nothing to doubt, said Asuma. A genin being able to use fuinjutsu of that level is just unheard of, said Inoichi. And his ninjutsu skills can't be denied either. I would also say that they are on par with the Uchihas. If there is one skill set that I've noticed from him lately that he's skilled in, it's his use of shadow clones and how he uses them to gain a tactical advantage, commented Shikaku. The use of disposable clones to create openings and get his comrades out of tough situations is clever. Already, the civilian council did not like where this was going. He cheated. He must have cheated. It's his demon trickery. The demon's trying to fool you all, shouted Kudaki. She was thrown out of her chair immediately and slammed up against the wall, staring into eyes that would make even the Kyuubi tremble in fear. Don't ever refer to him as a demon again, yelled Tsunade before releasing her grip on the poor woman. These civilians needed to learn their place in this shinobi village, and that was going to happen today. For too long, they had given her a headache, and she was almost certain that they were the main cause of why her sensei's efforts as Hokage had gone to waste. She turned back to the shinobi council. Anything else to say? Or should we just go right into a vote? There's nothing more that can be said to change my vote. I vote yes, said Jiraiya immediately. Hiyashi was a close second, followed by the remainder of the council. Tsunade smiled. Uzumaki Naruto, promoted to Chunin. Tsunade. You can't be serious, argued one of the civilian members before he was forced back into his seat and restrained by Shikaku's shadow. Uzumaki Naruto is a shinobi of this village. He has proven himself as such more than most and has earned his promotion. You will do no such thing to keep him from that which he has rightfully earned, said Shikaku. Fine, but you'll all regret that decision when he finally shows what sort of monster he truly is, said Ruchika. Now, what are these other matters that we need to talk about? I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, said Tsunade, throwing down a teaching manual for the academy that had a copy of the curriculum in it. Sasuke sat in his bed in the hospital. He was bored. After everyone had left, he had pulled Sakura aside for a little, but even she had to leave eventually, leaving him alone. Sasuke sighed. Yo. Sasuke turned his attention to the window to see Kakashi sitting on the windowsill. What do you want? Asked Sasuke. Figured I'd finally talk to you after that match of yours, said Kakashi. Sasuke looked down. I'm sorry I used the Chidori like that. I know you told me never to use it on a comrade, but don't worry, I'm not mad at you. I guess I would be disappointed in myself if I thought you weren't going to use it or Naruto wasn't going to use his Rasengan, said Kakashi, sitting on the end of Sasuke's bed. Actually, on the contrary, I'm proud with how you did during this exam. You stuck with your team the entire time, not doubting either of them, and you three survived a test that would have killed most others. And at the very end, you and Naruto fought on a level one honestly didn't think you two were capable of. Even I would have been hard-pressed there had I been fighting either of you. I knew the moment your match was drawn that you and Naruto were going to throw everything at each other, and I accepted it. The two of you really needed that match, an opportunity to go all out against one another and to see where you measure up against each other. Kakashi could still see that Sasuke was worried about something. Don't worry, there's no doubt that you made Chunin this time around. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about whether or not I actually earned it, said Sasuke. Ever since that night, the civilian council has done nothing but pamper me and hand everything over to me. Honestly, they're just as annoying as the fangirls from back in the academy. I hate it. It's like they never give me an opportunity to actually do something for myself. I bet they even set up my training with you. Kakashi placed a hand on Sasuke's shoulder. True, they did request to have you trained privately for 3 years. Initially, they had tried to have Jiraiya-sama train you, but I offered myself to train you and give you the skills necessary to protect your friends. Not because the council required it, but because I felt you earned it. You proved to me that there was more than just a revenge-seeking emo avenger in there. You showed that you genuinely cared for your comrades and you even think of them as family. Sasuke looked at Kakashi confused. Don't tell me Naruto doesn't remind you of that annoying little brother that you just can't live without. Sasuke actually let out a slight chuckle at that thought. It was true, he did see Naruto as a brother. Naruto was the brother he always wanted, not Itachi. Itachi was simply the one who was trying to take away everything that he had left. See. Trust and friendship is something that can't simply be given to you. It's something you have to earn yourself. You earned my complete trust the moment you put your life on the line to try and save them, and I felt you finally understood what would be required for you to truly become strong. I didn't agree to train you simply by the council's whim. I did it because I don't want you to have to suffer through what I had to, said Kakashi as the look on his masked face saddened. I didn't truly understand the meaning of comrades and friendship until it was too late. By then, I had already witnessed my father take his own life and the one I would call a brother sacrifice himself for me. Kakashi uncovered his eye. This Sharingan was given to me by Uchiha Obito in his final moments. We were like you and Naruto are, only by the time we realized what we meant to each other, Obito was dead. Shortly after, I lost my other teammate and close friend Rin. I had promised Obito I would protect her, but at that time, I was still too weak. Kakashi stood up, facing out the window towards the memorial stone. No matter what happens, you've earned my respect and everything you have now. Kakashi then turned around to Sasuke with a look on his face. So how'd it go? Sasuke sent a victorious smile to Kakashi. Good. We'll leave shortly afterwards then. That should give you plenty of time to settle things here, said Kakashi. Boom. Kakashi and Sasuke looked out the window to see a large explosion coming from one of the training grounds. Naruto found himself being dragged across the village. He had just finished his ramen by the time Tenten had managed to get her hands on him. With her own team in the hospital and Hinata taking care of her own business at the moment, Tenten saw this as a perfect opportunity to try and get Naruto to show her a few tricks with Fuinjutsu, and in Tenten's defense, he had promised to show her a few things a while ago. So what is it you want to know? Asked Naruto. Well, I know you promised me that you'd show me those seals that you used on your gloves, and perhaps you have something else, asked Tenten. Naruto quickly showed Tenten the storage seals for weapons that he used on the gloves, and she tried, failing the first few times until she actually made one that worked and could hold kunai. It also helped that she already knew some Fuinjutsu, whereas Naruto had to start from the very beginning before figuring out how to make those storage seals. Tenten asked if Naruto had anything extra, and Naruto thought for a moment. Well, I do have these that I've been working on, he said, pulling out what looked to be a small ball of wrapped seals. Naruto went to the middle of the training ground and placed the small ball there. You may want to duck behind a tree. Tenten looked at Naruto confused, but heeded his warning as Naruto did the same. Release, called out Naruto. The small ball exploded in a small puff of smoke and about 100 kunai shot outwards from it, embedding themselves all around the area. Tenten was foolish enough to peek out from one of the trees as the ball exploded and a kunai came sailing towards her, cutting off a sizable portion of one of her hair buns. Sorry, I'm not quite done with that one, apologized Naruto. I'm kind of trying to get the kunai to release in a single direction. Are you kidding me? That was awesome, exclaimed Tenten. Naruto shot her a confused look. You're telling me that Konoha's king of pranks hasn't thought of what that can do? Naruto shook his head. Tenten sighed. What you've just created was kind of like an explosion of shrapnel, only you're using intact kunai, which are much more powerful than simple shards of metal. If you were to throw that into the middle of the enemy unit, just think of what it could do. Wow, said a wide-eyed Naruto. Suddenly, he got an idea. And if I attach explosive notes onto the end of the kunai? Please teach me how to make that, begged Tenten, drooling from the mouth. Naruto gave in and gave her the basics on how to make it. He wasn't going to explain everything as he didn't quite have the time, but he figured that Tenten could figure out the rest. You know, Jiraiya-sama told us about your clan, the Uzumakis. I already knew a little about them before, but I can't believe that they were never mentioned in the academy. Yeah, I didn't know about them until Eros Sennin took me to Uzushiogakure, said Naruto, taking out his small black sealing book. It was there that I first learned Fuinjutsu. I found out about my family and how they were all Fuin masters. I found this book which has all of my grandpa's sealing knowledge in it. Oh, and I also found this. Naruto turned to the last pages of the sealing book. There were a few empty pages, probably for Morio's descendants to add their sealing knowledge. On the last page, Naruto had replicated a few blood seals where he kept everything else that he had found in Uzushiogakure. He bit his thumb and wiped it across one of the seals and his sword was unsealed. And I also found this. Tenten's eyes shot wide open. That's. You know, I think she's officially beat your vixen in the stuttering department now, commented Kurama. Naruto's sweat dropped as he looked on at Tenten, who was now frozen. Tenten. Tenten. Asked Naruto, poking the weapon using kunoichi. Wow, where the hell did a gaki like you get that? Exclaimed Zabuza, who was standing on a tree branch above where Naruto and Tenten were. Zabuza was missing a chunk of his hair as well, and it was likely that he had been training nearby when Naruto set his kunai shrapnel bomb off and a stray kunai clipped his hair. Zabuza then went on to search for the one responsible when he stumbled onto Naruto unsealing that sword. Huh? Zabuza? Asked Naruto. Zabuza jumped down from the tree and picked up the sword from in front of Naruto. He unsheathed it and took a good look at it. The Uzumaki Shio no Ken. I don't believe it. This sword was thought to be lost, commented Zabuza in disbelief. At around this time, Tenten's brain finally rebooted. Well, I kind of found it. It was in a blood-sealed locker that belonged to my ancestor, said Naruto rubbing the back of his head. Zabuza looked down at the blade to examine it more, but found that it was gone, now in Tenten's hands. Tenten was admiring the sword. Despite having been lost for a century, the sword was in immaculate condition. The hilt was red, wrapped in black with a small Uzumaki crest at the base of the hilt. The hand guard was also a black Uzumaki spiral. From it, the blade extended outward with a mirror finish and a faint, yet intricate sealing matrix on the blade. Hey, so you seem to know a little about this sword. Eros Sennin said it has some sort of special ability. Do you have any idea what it does? Asked Naruto. Not really, brat. I know that it's some sort of sealing sword, but that's about it. If you found that sword, then I'd imagine you found some sort of kenjutsu scrolls as well. I'd guess that there is something in there that tells you what the sword does, said Zabuza. Still, I can't believe it still exists. And I bet you don't even know how to use it. Hey, pouted Naruto. Eros Sennin said he'd show me during our trip. Zabuza-sama, called out Haku, landing on a branch above them. We are to report to the briefing room, we've got an assignment. When you get back, you'd better be able to use that cause you and I are going to fight like true swordsmen, said Zabuza, pointing to the sword in Tenten's hands. Haku pulled an Anbu mask over his face, resembling the one he had when Naruto and he first met. Zabuza did the same, only to Naruto's surprise and slight amusement, Zabuza's mask was a rabbit. Naruto took the sword back from a pouting Tenten. Man, why do you get all the cool toys? Said Tenten, crossing her arms like a kid denied a trip to the candy store. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll find something, said Naruto. Hey, speaking of which, I just thought of something. Tenten looked at Naruto curiously. Why don't you go and ask Bachan? I'm sure she has something that can help you out. What? But I'm not like Tsunade-sama. I mean sure, I want to be as strong a kunoichi as she, but I don't have the same talents as her, said Tenten. Maybe not, but I think you're a lot like her grandmother, Uzumaki Mito, said Naruto as Tenten's eyes widened again. She had heard of the legendary wife of the Shadaime. But I thought Jiraiya-sama said that only an Uzumaki could learn the Uzumaki techniques. There's no way I could learn her techniques. That's not true. A lot of the seals from the Uzumakis can actually be used by anyone. It's just the most powerful seals that are restricted. Those seals that I'm talking about are sealed inside my book by blood seals, but this, said Naruto. He pulled out a scroll that wasn't originally sealed inside the book. This is a basic Uzumaki explosion seal, one that anyone can make. And there are plenty of other seals too that anyone can use. Tenten followed the instruction on the scroll, making the tag. So Naruto, how powerful are these? I don't really know. Let's find out, said Naruto as he went to a rock. They both hid behind a tree and Naruto activated the seal, nothing. Naruto then walked out towards the seal to see what was wrong with it. He was sure it was drawn correctly, perhaps there was something missing. As he got within 10 feet of the seal, boom. It went off in a massive explosion, much larger than any explosive tag, that covered the entire clearing in the training ground. Naruto, shouted Tenten. When the smoke cleared, Naruto was lying in the middle of a crater, burnt, black, and smoking. That was some explosion to Bayo, said a weary Naruto. Kurama couldn't stop laughing. Haha, you blew yourself up, laughed the Kyuubi. Damn fox, said Naruto losing consciousness. A few minutes later, Kakashi had arrived and Tenten explained everything. Kakashi picked Naruto up before taking him back to the hospital to rest. What happened to him? Asked Sasuke as Kakashi placed Naruto down on the bed opposite Sasuke. Just a little accident. Now while I'm gone, don't let him near any explosives or fire jutsu, said Kakashi. You do realize he can make exploding clones, said Sasuke, looking over to see only an afterimage of Kakashi. A few minutes later, Tsunade walked in to see what had happened to Naruto. I can't believe I'm actually promoting him, she thought. Already, Tsunade wasn't in a good mood. She had just finished the council meeting where she had practically chewed up the civilian council about 12 times over. She had learned that the civilian council, who Sarutobi had put in charge of the academy curriculum for whatever reason, had drastically lowered the standards and were partially responsible for Naruto being sabotaged. But the worst part came when she asked why the unit on the Uzumaki was removed from the curriculum. As one of the council members put it, there was no room for a family of whores and bastards in the school curriculum. That was one mistake the councilman probably shouldn't have made, considering Tsunade's grandmother was actually an Uzumaki. Currently, said councilman was in the hospital with all arms and legs broken, a major concussion, broken ribs, a weird croak in his voice and a sudden craving for flies and bugs. Not to mention, the entire civilian council was now seriously afraid of Jiraiya. On her way out, Tsunade was confronted by Tenten. Normally, this would be a bad time for anyone to confront Tsunade, however the way she was complimenting Tsunade's grandmother and asking if there were any of her techniques that she could study was a much-needed comfort to the Hokage. She immediately realized that must have been Naruto's doing. I'll see if grandma had anything. I'm sure she's got something that will help, said Tsunade. Tsunade returned to her office to find the entire shinobi council standing there. I thought I dismissed you guys already, she asked, slightly irritated. Still. Yes, but there is something we'd like to know that we want to ask without any of those arrogant bastards around, said Sum. Fine, what is it? Said Sund. It regards Naruto. We've heard from our kids about the kind of life he lived before becoming a shinobi, and I'm certain that was just a watered-down version of it, said Inoichi. What we want to know is, does the civilian council have anything to do with the way Naruto was treated as a child? As you all saw, the civilians pretty much wanted to have Naruto killed. Yes, I believe they have a huge hand in the way the village has looked at Naruto, said Tsunade. They're a bunch of ungrateful pricks who wouldn't know a kunai if it embedded itself in their heart. They have no understanding with how the shinobi arts work nor do they even care. To them, Naruto has been nothing more than the Kyuubi while the villagers followed in their stead. How they got so much leeway under Sarutobi-sensei is beyond me. But the villagers are coming around, aren't they? Asked Hiyashi. Yes, without a doubt, there have been a good number of cases that show that Naruto's been winning people over. If I'm correct, he somehow got into one of Konoha's most prestigious restaurants and was even apologized to by Fazaku Maikigo, a highly respected, if overly eccentric, merchant in the village, said Tsunade. He is making a lot of progress and this exam has been a real eye-opener to the village regarding who he is. I can feel that the civilian council is starting to lose their hold on the rest of the village regarding Naruto, and it's only a matter of time now. The following day, 7 of Chunin candidates stood on top of the Hokage Tower where they would find out the results of the exams. Both Naruto and Sasuke had been released from the hospital earlier that day under the condition that Sasuke takes it easy for a few days and Naruto doesn't go near anything explosive. Neji had a cast on his right arm and a sling holding it while Lee was sitting in a chair. His muscles were still recovering and Tsunade didn't want him moving much more than the therapy at the hospital. Both Neji and Lee would be in the hospital for a few more days. Sakura and Hinata were fine, and Sakura was unusually cheerful today. She was normally pretty happy, but she was even more so today, indicating that something good must have happened. Shino's hive was at about half strength now, after being almost destroyed by Gaara. Speaking of Gaara, the Sand Trio had decided to stay in Konoha for a few more days due to Tamari wanting to go to the upcoming festival for some reason. Shinji was the only one not there, most likely still recovering from the effects of having the seal placed on him. The elders had managed to convince Hiashi to refrain from banishing Shinji from the clan, but they were not able to prevent the sealing. While sealing was normally their duty, as clan head, one of Hiyashi's duties was to protect the image of the clan, and the sealing was a result of punishing Shinji for having dishonored the clan and trying to repair some of the damage Shinji had done. Standing around the outside of the top of the tower were all the friends and family of the Chunin candidates along with a few other ninja from the village such as Anko, Ibiki, Genma, and a few others. After a few minutes, Tsunade finally emerged from within the tower, wearing the ceremonial Hokage robes. Right, I think you all know why you're here, said Tsunade, pulling out a furled scroll from her coat. You all want to see if you get these. Well, let's get started. Aburame Shino, step forward, called out Tsunade as Shino took a step forward. It has been decided by myself and the Shinobi Council of Konoha that you will be promoted to the rank of Chunin. Everyone there cheered for their friend, especially a certain green-haired Kunoichi. Shino accepted the promotion scroll from Tsunade. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I humbly accept this. Shino then stepped back in line. Haruno Sakura, called out Tsunade as Sakura stepped forward. Congratulations, you will be promoted to the rank of Chunin. Way to go, billboard brow, cheered Ino. Sakura turned and smiled. She knew Ino was joking and she'd let this one slide. Next to Ino were her parents and they were both ecstatic. Sakura was trying her best to hide the blush that was developing on her face. Thank you, Shisho, said Sakura, taking the promotion scroll. Hyuga Hinata, called out Tsunade. Hinata was snapped out of her cheer with an eep when her name was called. Congratulations, you've passed. A smile lit up Hinata's face as she heard Hanabi cheering. Hinata accepted the scroll and bowed to the Hokage. Hyuga Neji. Neji stepped, or limped, forward. Congratulations on achieving the rank of Chunin. Yash. Neji's youthful flames sure are burning brightly, exclaimed Guy. Hyuga Shinji, said Tsunade. Well, he doesn't seem to be here. No matter, he won't be receiving a promotion now or anytime soon. People wanted to cheer, but they figured that it still wasn't the proper thing to do. Rock Lee. Lee shot up from his seat, despite having been told otherwise. It was close, but congratulations on your promotion. Lee's face turned from stern and serious to happy and excited in a matter of moments. Hi Hokage-sama. You have no idea how happy this makes me. Guy-sensei. I did it. Lee. I'm so proud of you. Guy-sensei. Lee. Smack. Tsunade's fist sent them flying back before those two could cast their weird genjutsu upon everyone. I don't need any of that today. Tsunade's attention then turned to the last two. Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto. She looked straight at them with a stern expression that could probably top Hiashi. She then sighed and shook her head slightly as both boys began to sweat. Had they really not been promoted? They turned towards their respective teachers and saw that Kakashi and Jiraiya were shaking their heads with a disappointed look on their faces. I'm sorry, said Suant. A few people gasped. Were those two really not going to be promoted? You two won't be receiving your jackets for a few years, but you pass. Congratulations. What? Shouted both Sasuke and Naruto. I said, congratulations, you both pass, said Tsunade before regaining that stern expression. But don't ever try anything like that again. Shisho, what was with that long pause? Asked Sakura. It wouldn't be fun to promote people without making at least a few people sweat, now would it? Said Suant. Sasuke and Naruto merely sweat dropped. Bah, Tsunade-sama, what do you mean by we won't be getting our jackets right now? Asked Naruto, catching himself after seeing the look on Tsunade's face. Close 1. You almost lost your promotion there, said Tsunade as Naruto gulped. I figured that since the two of you won't be around for a few years, you'd most likely not use it and simply outgrow it. You will get one upon returning after your trips. Naruto and Sasuke accepted it. While they were slightly disappointed they wouldn't be getting their Chunin flak jackets today, they saw the logic in Tsunade's explanation. Within those scrolls are official notices of your promotions and also a second note. Take that note to any of the village shinobi supply shops and they will give you the standard Chunin package which includes the Chunin handbook and various weapons and scrolls that are standard amongst Chunin of the village. You will have 2 weeks off to prepare yourself before you resume duties as a Chunin. For all of you who competed in the Chunin exams this time around, I am proud of you and the village is proud of you. I congratulate those of you who have earned your promotion and those of you who have not yet earned theirs. Continue the hard work and it will be yours next time around. I will say that the next Chunin exams will be held in Suna, however, after the whole fiasco with Kumo, it is likely there will be some changes to the exams, announced Tsunade. For now, you are all dismissed. Everyone broke off to be congratulated by their respective families and teachers. Not bad Gaki, not bad at all, said Jiraiya, placing his hand on Naruto's head. Perhaps there's hope for you yet. With that, Jiraiya took off, probably to go do some research. Naruto, said Hinata. Naruto turned to see his girlfriend walking towards him and wrap him up in a big hug and kissed him, disregarding the look on her father's face. Congratulations Hinata on the promotion, you earned it. Exclaimed Naruto. And I'm glad that you got yours too, replied Hinata. Yeah, I can't believe I won't bet my jacket though, pouted Naruto. Hinata giggled a little. It sounds as if everyone is meeting up at barbecue tonight to celebrate, said Hinata. Really? I'll be there. Tabeo, said Naruto. Hinata, let's go, called out Hiyashi. I've got a flak jacket to rub in some elders' faces. Coming, replied Hinata. I'll see you tonight. Before leaving, Hinata gave Naruto a quick kiss goodbye, leaving Naruto just standing there. Boss has a girlfriend, teased Konohamaru, coming over with Iruka to tease Naruto. Konohamaru, Iruka-sensei. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto. We came to congratulate you on your promotion and perhaps get a celebratory bowl of ramen, said Iruka. Awesome. That sounds great, Iruka-sensei, shouted Naruto. And afterwards do you think we could go see what that Chunin package thing is? Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, called out Kakashi before any of them could take off. Team meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Be at training ground 7. With that, Kakashi shunshined away and Naruto left with Iruka and Konohamaru. While enjoying the ramen, Naruto could see that Iruka was in deep thought. Iruka-sensei. Is everything okay? Asked Naruto. Yeah, it's just, I can't believe how far you've come in merely a year. After seeing those matches of yours, I can't even begin to think you were once the goofy little kid who everyone called the dead last. And now, you and I are the same rank, and I'm 10 years older than you. It's just hard to believe, that's all, said Iruka. 2 years. Huh. What are you talking about, Iruka-sensei? Asked Naruto. I know I won't be ready for them this year, but the ones 2 years from now, mumbled Iruka. Iruka-sensei. What are you talking about? Asked Naruto. Oh, sorry. Recently, I've been thinking. Perhaps it's time I start to move forward. I've been a Chunin for years, but after seeing you grow so fast, I can't help but feel like I'm going to be left behind, said Iruka. What? Don't say that Iruka. You're an amazing ninja, said Naruto, trying to cheer Iruka up. But what is this about 2 years? Every 2 years, the village holds Jonin trials for Chunin. This year's trials are coming up in about 4 months and I know I'm not going to be ready for them, but I might be ready for them in 2 years. I've just been thinking, perhaps it's time for me to move forward as a ninja and become a Jonin, said Iruka. Wow. That would be awesome, declared Naruto. 2 years. I'm positive you can do it, Iruka, said Ayame, placing another bowl in front of Naruto. You're really strong. There are times when all Naruto does is talk about how strong of a ninja you are. You think so? Asked Iruka, a very faint blush coming to his face. Hell yeah. I'm sure you'll kick ass Iruka-sensei. Tabeo, said Naruto. Iruka smiled. Alright. If you think I can do it, then I will. Seeing as you'll be gone for 3 years, I promise that by the time you get back I'll be a Jonin, declared Iruka with a new fire in his eye as he, Naruto, and Konohamaru finished their last bowls. Let's go get you your new stuff, Naruto. About 30 minutes later, Naruto was walking out of the ninja shop that was owned by Tenten's father carrying the box of supplies, minus one flak jacket, that was awarded to him for being promoted. They made it back to Naruto's apartment before he opened it. Let's see. The Chunin Handbook. I'll read that later, maybe, said Naruto as he began examining the contents of the box. Iruka chuckled and wondered if Naruto would actually get around to reading it. Then again, no one ever read the handbook. He then pulled out a medium-sized book. It read, Basic Chakra Nature Manipulation. Naruto gave it a confused look. Technically, you aren't supposed to learn elemental ninjutsu until you're a Chunin, but from the looks of the matches this time around, well yeah, said Iruka. Hey Iruka-sensei, what element are you? Asked Naruto. Water actually, said Iruka. Why? Just curious. Here you go, Konohamaru. I don't need this. I'm already past basic wind manipulation, said Naruto, handing the book to Konohamaru. Iruka merely sighed. Awesome. I wonder what my chakra nature is, exclaimed Konohamaru. Naruto smiled and gave Konohamaru the chakra paper that came with the book. Konohamaru channeled his chakra into the paper and it smoldered to ashes. Cool. Fire. Just like Gigi. Iruka face-palmed himself. Konohamaru wasn't supposed to learn about that stuff until Chunin, High Genin at the latest. In all honesty though, there was nothing stopping an academy student from learning basic elemental manipulation, it was just strongly discouraged. Naruto pulled out a few scrolls that read, Basic Fuinjutsu, on them. Most Chunin know the very basics of Funinjutsu, however, there are some like myself that delve a bit deeper into it, explained Iruka. Huh. You know Fuinjutsu? Asked Naruto. Actually, my specialty lies in barrier jutsus, a type of Fuinjutsu, explained Iruka. Wow. That's awesome, exclaimed Naruto. He took a very brief look through the Fuinjutsu scrolls before tossing them carelessly back in the box. Man, that was disappointing. I already know way more advanced seals than those lame storage seals. Naruto then pulled out some of the ninja equipment. With the promotion, he was given a total of 100 kunai, 300 shuriken, 50 explosive notes. Oops, I'll take those, said Iruka, snatching the explosive notes out of Naruto's hands. Huh? What? Asked a confused Naruto. Why did you take those explosive notes? Hokage's orders. She said not to let you near anything that can go. Boom, said Iruka, laughing at Naruto's reaction. He had heard about Naruto almost blowing himself up the other day. Also inside the box were a standard issue tanto and some basic field and first aid supplies. He was honestly hoping for something cool and interesting, but now the only thing he thought was cool he wouldn't get for 3 more years. Iruka sensed this as well. Here, said Iruka, taking off his vest and handing it to Naruto. I know that you're a little disappointed that you're not going to be getting one. It's the best thing about becoming a Chunin. And seeing that you are one now, I feel no regret with letting you wear mine for a little, even if it might be a bit big on you. Just make sure you return it before you leave. Kanpai, cheered all the members of the Konoha 12, plus Fu. Tonight was a night of celebration as 7 of them had managed to make Chunin. Even Lee and Neji had convinced Tsunade, only Kami knows how, to let them join with their friends in celebration. As of now, 8 of them were now amongst the ranks of Chunin, despite their young age, leaving 5 that still had yet to pass the exams. That's it. I swear, next time around we are making Chunin Akamaru, blurted out Kiba. Arf, barked Akamaru. Yeah, that's the spirit, Akamaru, cheered Kiba. Who else is with us? Well, I'm definitely in. With some of those new techniques that Tsunade-sama gave me, there's no way I'm not making Chunin this next time around, declared Tenten. There's no way in hell I'm letting Billboard Brow get ahead of me, shouted Ino. Sakura simply looked at Ino and the new fire that had ignited within her friend. She was glad that Ino was now a determined kunoichi, tossing aside her old fangirl ways. That was shown by the way Sakura was sitting next to Sasuke at dinner and the two of them had inadvertently been playing with each other's food, almost like a dumbed-down version of what Naruto and Hinata were doing right now. Ino wasn't making any fuss about it. I'm definitely in. I made it to the finals this time around and I'm sure I can make Chunin next time, said Fu. I'm in as well. I can't let Shikamaru and Ino get ahead of me. Besides, as long as Asuma-sensei treats up to Barb Q after each exam, then I won't be complaining, said Choji. So long as we don't get stuck with any more Hyugas, said Ino. No offense, Hinata, Neji. None taken, said Neji. You know, the branch members are actually very nice. It's the main ones you have to watch out for, said Hinata. Speaking of which, does that make you a main family Hyuga or a branch family Hyuga, considering you're no longer the heir? Asked Tenten. Unfortunately for Naruto, he was already jumping to conclusions. He was so going to kick Hiyashi's ass the next time he saw the man. Everyone in the room immediately felt Naruto's chakra flare. Naruto. It's not like that, cried Hinata as she began to explain everything to the blonde about the bet and how her father had played the elders at their own game. Really? So you and Hanabi are both safe from the seal? Asked Naruto. Hinata smiled and nodded her head. He then looked towards Neji. It's okay, Naruto. I know what you're thinking and don't worry yourself with it, said Neji. No. I promised I'd get that damn seal off your head, Neji. It's just everything Ero Sennin and I have thought about has failed, said Naruto out of disappointment. Instinctively, he reached into his back pocket and pulled out his book. If there's anything that can get rid of your seal, it's in here. I just know it. Naruto, please don't burden yourself with my troubles, said Neji. Just shut it. I already promised you and I won't go back on my word. It's my Nindo. I know there is something in this book. I just know there is something in here that can help, said Naruto. Neji remained silent, knowing that he wasn't going to be able to talk Naruto out of it. Instantly, the mood changed. Now, who's up for dessert? Me, cheered just about everyone. You know, you should ask Sakura out to the festival, nagged Naruto. He and Sasuke had arrived to the training ground at 10 and had been waiting for at least an hour. They should have known Kakashi would be late, as usual. Nope, said Sasuke. But why not? It's obvious she likes you and the way you two were acting last night. Shut it, Dobi, snapped Sasuke. He couldn't believe he was getting relationship advice from the academy's most oblivious student when it came to relationships. But, no, come on. Just stop, why not? Chidori. Ga. A few minutes later, a cheerful and humming Sakura arrived to a ticked-off Sasuke and a fried Naruto. Good morning, Sasuke, chirped Sakura. Hey, said Sasuke. Returning the smile. Sakura looked around, and instantly her mod went from cheerful to, I should have known. He's late, isn't he? In his defense, so are you, retorted Sasuke. It's not my fault that I actually had the sense to be late to make up for his lateness, said Sakura. You spent an entire 2 months with him, you should know. Actually, I wasn't late at all during that time. Everyone looked up to see Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade sitting on a tree branch above them. Yo! You're late, shouted Naruto and Sakura. Kakashi simply waved them off. Huh? Ero Sennin, Ba-chan, what are you doing here? Asked Naruto. What? We can't come to congratulate our students on their recent promotion, said Jiraiya. Fine, if you don't want me around here, I've got research that needs doing. Before Jiraiya could walk away teasingly, Tsunade had reeled him back in by the ear. No, I just wanted to meet up so I could congratulate my cute little genin on their promotion, said Kakashi. These two simply tagged along. But Kakashi-sensei, we're not genin anymore, argued Naruto. So, you'll always be my cute little genin, no matter what rank you are, smiled Kakashi as Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura sweat dropped. So you're only here to tease us, is that it? Asked Naruto. Actually, it's customary to give one's students a gift upon their promotion to Chunin, said Tsunade. Team 7's eyes lit up. I guess I'll start, said Jiraiya. He pulled out an old headband and a set of what appeared to be 5 ordinary kunai. What's this? An old headband. And some kunai? Asked a confused Naruto. That's not just any headband. Why don't you take a look at whose forehead protector that was, said Jiraiya. Naruto peeled back the fabric and gasped when he saw the name on the back of the forehead protector, Namikaze Minato. This was my dad's. Jiraiya smiled and nodded. It was. And I'm sure he'd want you to have it. If they were here right now, I'm sure they'd be proud of you. Naruto took off the forehead protector that was currently on his head, the one Iruka-sensei had given him. This was probably the only case Naruto could see himself replacing the headband that Iruka had given him. Thankfully for him, Jiraiya had the plate remounted on a long black piece of fabric so that it still matched his old one. I had those kunai specifically made to filter chakra out of them. I figured that way, you'd be able to put those absorption seals on them and not worry about tossing them aside after you used them too much. Unfortunately, they'll still overheat or whatever the other elements do, but the chakra they've absorbed will work its way out of the kunai, allowing you to continue using them, explained Jiraiya. Wow. Thanks Arrow Sennin, exclaimed Naruto. Jiraiya sighed. He still wasn't getting rid of the Arrow Sennin anytime soon, it appeared. Alright Sakura, I guess you're next, said Suand. So, I've been thinking on it and I believe I kept hearing you complaining about not having a summoning contract, so if you would be willing to accept, I would be very pleased to offer you the one I have with the slugs. Yes, screamed Sakura, without a second thought, as she jumped and wrapped Tsunade in a hug. After the time she had spent with Tsunade so far, she found that she actually liked a lot of Tsunade's summons. Even that slug-freak Jinchuriki didn't deter her from them. Looks like your last, Sasuke, said Kakashi as he handed Sasuke a long slender box. Sasuke opened it to find a black scabbard Chikudo sword. He unsheathed the blade to find that it had a brilliant mirrored finish. The blade was a little over 2 feet in length and the hilt was black like the scabbard. On the bottom of the hilt, was the Uchiha emblem. I bought that blade from Tenten's father's shop. He's the best swordsmith in the village and one of the best in the land of fire. He also claimed it was the best sword he had forged yet, and I would agree that its quality is probably the best I've seen. It also contains the same chakra channeling metal that is in Naruto's kunai. Sasuke took another look at the blade before channeling some of his chakra into the blade. Electricity surrounded the blade before Sasuke consciously changed the chakra to fire. Hey! How come he gets a sword? Pouted Naruto. Because you already have one, Gaki, replied Jiraiya. Sasuke sheathed the sword and thanked Kakashi. Oh, and I have one more thing for you. This is for when you get bored lying in a hospital bed, said Kakashi as he pulled out a familiar orange book. Oh hell no, shouted both Sakura and Tsunade, instinctively slamming their fists simultaneously into Kakashi. Sakura used a fire jutsu on the book to ensure that Kakashi would never give it to Sasuke before turning to find Naruto, Jiraiya, and Sasuke cowering behind a rock. Both student and master gave each other a satisfactory smile. Jiraiya figured he'd best get out of there before Tsunade found some reason to beat on him a bit. Naruto, use the next few days to rest and prepare yourself. When I return, we're out of here. Right, said Naruto as Jiraiya walked off. Come on Sakura. Let's go sign that contract, said Tsunade, taking her student away. Come on, just go up to her and ask her, nagged Naruto. No. But why not? Sasuke sighed. It was obvious Naruto wasn't going to drop it any time soon and he would most likely find out in a few days anyways. Because, I already did. Chapter 59. Fangirls and Festivals, Hinata, chirped Naruto as he popped down out of a tree and a few inches away from her face. Eep. Hinata had been with her team that morning and they had just finished up their training. Seeing as Hinata and Shino had been given the next 2 weeks off, Kiba got lucky and the entire Team 8 was given the same. Despite 2 of the members of Team 8 being Chunin, they would still remain an intact squad under their Jonin sensei until every member of the squad was promoted to Chunin and they had spent 5 years under their sensei's guidance. However, it was rare that this would occur as most genin don't even take the Chunin exams until they are at least 15 years in age, putting them under their sensei's instruction for 4 years, and the average age of promotion through the Chunin exams was 18 years of age. Once every few years, a highly skilled genin would come along and make Chunin before at a young age. However, this was just ridiculous. In this one group alone, 9 out of 14 had made the rank of Chunin before most would even attempt to take the exam, and from the looks of things, the remaining 5 members had a strong chance at making Chunin within the next round or 2 of exams. 14 genin making Chunin before the age of 15 was just unheard of. However, that only went to support the assumption that this really was a special group of ninja coming up. Hey Hinata, want to go grab some ramen? Asked Naruto with a big grin plastered on his face. Is that all you ever think about? Ramen, joked Kiba. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? Replied Naruto. Nice jacket, Shino. Shino was the only member of Team 8 to be wearing their flak jacket right now. Hiyashi had taken Hinata's and hung it as sort of a trophy in the clan meeting hall, where the elders would spend a lot of their time plotting. Thank you, replied Shino. I would say the same, but yours seems a bit too big. How did you get one? I thought Hokage-sama wasn't going to be giving you one until you got back, asked Kiba. Oh, this isn't mine. Iruka-sensei let me borrow it for a few days, replied Naruto, arf. Yeah, rub it in my face, will ya? Said Kiba to Akamaru. Akamaru had told Kiba that the scent on the jacket wasn't Naruto's, but most likely Iruka's. Akamaru figured that Naruto must have borrowed it. So what do you say? Ramen? Asked Naruto. Hinata smiled and nodded as the two took off. Man, there goes another team lunch. Oi Shino, you up for lunch? Asked Kiba. Thank you for the offer, but I must decline. Fu has accepted my clan's invitation to live with us, so I must be there to ensure everything goes smoothly for her, said Shino before he took off as well. Looks like it's just you and me, buddy, said Kiba. Naruto and Hinata had finished their ramen. After all their times getting ramen together, Naruto could tell that Hinata's favorite by far was the miso ramen. Afterwards, Naruto was dragging Hinata somewhere. Naruto. Where are we going? Asked Hinata. I wanted to go over to Rekinu and Satanora's and see if we could get a reservation there before I left, said Naruto. Instantly, Hinata realized what Naruto was talking about. Rekinu and Satonora Kamiri were the owners and head chefs at the Flaming Leaf Inn, the place where the two of them had their first date and one of the very few restaurants that Naruto had actually been allowed to eat at. She figured Naruto wanted to do one more date there as well. Boom! Was heard as Naruto and Hinata approached the restaurant. They watched in horror as the very building where they had their first date was engulfed in the explosion and leveled to the ground in mere seconds. Standing a few meters in front of them were Rekinu and Satonora. What's the matter, honey? Asked Rekinu. Nothing, cried Satonora. It's just that building has so many fond memories. I remember the day when we first opened in there. I'm going to miss that old building. Excuse me, said Hinata, walking up to the older couple. Ah, Hyuga-san, Uzumaki-san. It's nice to see you on this fine day, and congratulations on your exam, said Satonora, completely regaining his composure in an instant. Naruto was kind of at a loss of words due to Satonora's immediate 180. What happened here? We were on our way to see if we could make a reservation before I leave on my trip and well, all we see is your restaurant being destroyed. Satonora began to tear up again. No. Why did you have to leave us like that? Why? Everyone's sweat dropped at the head chef's antics. Don't mind him, spoke Rekinu. We are just going through a bit of remodeling. You see, our son just got back from a long business trip to gather new and exciting ideas for our restaurant. I mean, sure, we were doing great with what he had, but all the upper-class dining was starting to get a little boring. We wanted to bring some fresh life back into the place, and thankfully our son, Kazuki, found just that. Really? So what sort of ideas did he find on his trip and where did he go? Asked Naruto. Well, he was gone for a few years traveling to a continent that is far west of here. There, he managed to pick up a lot of interesting recipes and he told us about these places called dance and dinner clubs. I'm sure that's something a young couple like yourself would have an absolute blast, said Rekinu. You know, the two of you here for a delicious meal and afterwards, you can dance the night away in each other's arms. Hinata's eyes lit up at the prospect of the new restaurant. Oh my, me dancing with Naruto, eep, thought Hinata while letting an eep sneak out. When she was young, her mother had taught her how to dance a little and she loved it. Now, the prospect of dancing with the one she loved had her on the verge of fainting at the idea. Naruto, on the other hand, was sweating on the inside. Dance. I have no clue how to dance. Oh, this trip just keeps getting better and better, thought a certain white-haired man who should have better things to do than spy on his apprentice. Naruto looked towards Hinata, trying to gauge her reaction, and from the looks of things, he was going to have to learn how to dance somehow. About a month ago, we did sort of a week trial to gauge if this idea was going to be successful and everyone loved it, said Rekinu. We also learned that if we are going to implement it, Then we will need to expand the restaurant, so we are going through renovations to practically double the seating capacity and add a stage and dance floor. Also, some of the newer Western recipes that we are going to add require a few small changes to the kitchen. So how long are you going to be gone? 3 years, replied Naruto, dampening Hinata's mood. Oh wow. That's some time. Well, we'll be up and running for sure when you return. Stop by when you return and we'll set you up with a reservation for the two of you, said Rekinu. Said Naruto, feeling a tug on his shirt sleeve. Please, begged Hinata, trying to look as cute as possible, which honestly was not necessary as she could have gotten Naruto without doing so, but a little extra never hurt. Hey, okay. We'll come here when I get back, I promise. It's just well, said Naruto nervously. Everyone looked at the blonde questioningly. I kind of don't know how to dance. What? Don't know how to dance? How do you expect to sweep the ladies off their feet if you can't dance? Please tell me that's not, thought Naruto. Don't worry kid, I'll teach you how to dance. Just leave it up to the one and only Jiraiya to whip you into something the ladies absolutely cannot resist. Just kill me now, please, thought Naruto. That can be arranged, joked Kurama. Oh, he was going to get quite a show watching his vessel struggle over the next 3 years. Sakura and Sasuke had remained at the training ground after a quick lunch. To say that she was ecstatic that Sasuke had asked her to the festival would be an understatement. Sakura had vowed never to give any sort of fangirl-ish scream, but after she left Sasuke's hospital room after he asked her, she simply couldn't help herself. This one moment had told Sakura exactly what she had been wanting to know. Sasuke had in fact begun to develop feeling for her. However, despite this huge victory for her, she knew she couldn't stop to rest. She knew she had to continue to hone her shinobi skills, not because doing so is what got Sasuke to notice her in the first place, but because of what she would have to face in the future. Both Naruto and Sasuke would eventually be confronted by powerful enemies and there was no way she was going to let them face everything alone. Not to mention, she was really beginning to enjoy shinobi life and learning to be a med-nin. The 3 members of Team 7 had gathered in the morning for a little bit of training, even though Kakashi had not designated a meeting time and had pretty much disbanded the team again until it reconvenes in 3 years. Still, Sakura found that actually training with Sasuke was getting kind of fun. Naruto was over against one of the trees, looking over a rather large scroll, most likely one of those Uzumaki sealing scrolls of his. Needless to say, it was still weird to see Naruto study like that. Sasuke was simply doing some weapons exercises as he was still ordered to take it easy for another day or two. Sakura had joined him and their practice turned into more of a game between the two of them. While he would aim his shuriken at the target, Sakura would attempt to thread her senbon through the holes in the shuriken. So far, she was actually doing fairly well, about 60% accuracy, which was actually very good. Haku had maybe a 75% accuracy and the senbon was his specialty, and Sasuke couldn't even get 30% without his Sharingan. After probably the first few throws, Sasuke began to realize what Sakura was doing and started to play along, giving her different combinations and formations of shuriken to deal with. By the time lunch rolled around, Naruto had taken off. Sakura figured he went to go and find Hinata, which was fine as it now gave her some time alone with Sasuke for their lunch, that is until they heard a shriek that sent shivers down both of their spines. Oh Sasuke! Come out Sasuke! Squealed a girl by the name of Amy. She was one of the few Sasuke fangirls who remained in the ninja program after failing the True Genin test. Afterwards, she was sent back to remedial classes where she apparently managed to pass because she had her leaf forehead protector. Sasuke and Sakura both groaned as the bubbly fangirl hopped out of the bushes. She had long brown hair that extended to the middle of her back. Even though Naruto had let the long hair secret slip to a few of his friends, a majority of the fangirls still thought it was Sasuke who liked girls with long hair when in reality it was Naruto. Perhaps I should say something to them about that, thought Sakura. Cha, then all the fangirls would immediately shave their heads. That'd be so hilarious, exclaimed inner Sakura. Sakura was surprised a bit. She hadn't heard from her inner self in quite some time, but the mental image created by inner Sakura was just too funny to resist. Now she was actually tempted to do such. Sasuke got up and was about to walk away before Amy called out. Sasuke, you know there's this festival coming up tomorrow and I still don't have anyone to go with. So how about you and I? Oh hell no. He's mine. Thought both Sakura and inner Sakura at the same time. No, replied Sasuke in a cold tone to his fangirl. But you and I would make the perfect couple. Just think you winning me prizes at the games and then we share some festival goodies while you feed me. Oh, and then the fireworks at the end, dreamed Amy. I can just see it now. You and I cuddling on a hill, laced with grass and flowers as the fireworks explode in the distance, but then out of the corners of our eyes, we catch each other's gaze and we, eek. Sakura was just about at the point where she would kill this girl. She was doing the best to restrain herself, but if Amy went any further, then she would most likely put the girl out of her misery. Go away, you're annoying, said Sasuke with a cold harsh tone towards Amy. But Sasuke, pleaded Amy. Can't you see I need to get back to training, replied Sasuke. Sakura was beginning to remember that attitude of Sasuke's. It was the same attitude he had when they were first put on Team 7 and she had been asking pretty much the same things out of him. However, Sakura wasn't worried he'd slip back into his old self. Sasuke was like this whenever fangirls and those who just wanted something out of him came around, but he'd open back up when it was just him and one of his real friends. Perhaps I can help you with training. My kunai and shuriken throwing has gotten really good lately, replied Amy, pulling out 2 shuriken and throwing them. When she opened her eyes, she saw Sasuke quaking in his feet. The first shuriken had actually nicked the inside of his thigh. Had it have been a few inches higher and he really would be the last Uchiha. However, the second shuriken had pretty much sealed Amy's fate. Naruto and Hinata were walking along through the village. Naruto only had about 2 more days after today to spend with Hinata before Ero Sennin said he'd be back. The festival was tomorrow and he really wanted to do something else with Hinata before leaving, but the one restaurant where he would have taken her was now closed for remodeling and apparently Jiraiya was going to teach him how to dance. Just great. Naruto stopped dead in his tracks as he felt a familiar ki wash over the village before cowering behind Hinata. Naruto? Asked a confused Hinata. I'd know that ki anywhere, shivered Naruto. Someone pissed off Sakura. Amy looked over to see a pissed off Sakura, who was also missing a sizable portion of her right bang, and a shuriken pinning a chunk of pink hair to a tree. That little brat. I'm going to kill her, raged inner Sakura. Actually, I've got a better idea, replied Sakura. Immediately, the sweet smile that was trademarked by her master appeared on Sakura's face. Amy's face went blank, something most ninja recognized as the influence of a genjutsu. A few seconds later, Amy dropped to her knees. Sasuke. Why? She screamed before losing consciousness. Genjutsu? Asked Sasuke. Shame, and that was one of the weaker ones I had, said Sakura. So what did she see? Asked Sasuke. I don't know. Demonic illusion. Hell viewing technique, it's different for each person unless I specifically control it like I did with a nose. All I know is she just saw the worst thing her brain could imagine, and from the sounds of it, it involved you, replied Sakura, earning a shiver from Sasuke. She checked the time and sighed. I've gotta go meet up with Tsunade Shisho for the rest of the afternoon. Right. Guess I'll see you tomorrow then, replied Sasuke. Definitely. I'm looking forward to it, said Sakura as she took off back towards the village. The Festival of the Budding Leaf, a celebration commemorated to the founding of Konoha. This was a time when everyone in Konoha came together to celebrate with music, lights, festivities, and cheers, capping it off with a grand fireworks display at the end of the night. For a certain blonde boy, this was his first real opportunity to experience the joys of a festival. Oh man, this is going to be great! Exclaimed Naruto. He was making his way through the village, dressed in the orange and black kimono that he had gotten over a week ago when shopping with Hinata. This was the first festival he could honestly say he was going to be able to enjoy, that is until. Demon. Crap. Why now? Thought Naruto. So much for the festival, or so he thought. Naruto took a quick look around to see where the cries were coming from and surprisingly, no one was looking towards him. He heard a screech and his attention was turned towards a festival stand that sold smoked fish. At that stand were about a dozen people screaming demon towards a certain cat, wearing a red ribbon in her hair, who was apparently holding the fish stand hostage. You know, it's times like this that make me glad I'm no longer a genin and that I don't have to worry about catching that damned cat, said Naruto. A nearby festival patron laughed slightly at Naruto's comment. Naruto figured he must have been a ninja who had a bad experience with Tora at one point in time as he continued on his way towards the Hyuga compound. Orange. I should have known, retorted Neji as Naruto arrived at the compound. Yeah. I make one change to my normal outfit and I'm no longer allowed to wear orange, said Naruto, taking a look over Neji's attire, which consisted of a primarily white kimono with brown trimmings. So do you have a date for the festival? Or did Hiyashi-sama ask you to follow me and Hinata around all night? Neji smiled. No. I won't be tailing the two of you tonight, although that doesn't mean I won't be able to see what you're doing, he said, activating his Byakugan for emphasis. So who's the lucky lady? Asked Naruto. That would be me, said a familiar voice. Tenten? Asked a surprised Naruto as Tenten walked up and placed a hand on Neji's arm. She was wearing a crimson kimono with gold wisps working their way throughout the garment. Since when? Since after I had to drag your crispy ass back to the hospital. I stopped into Neji's room and he asked me, replied Tenten. Come on Neji, let's go. In a moment, I want to see his reaction, whispered Neji to Tenten. Neji then turned to Naruto. Hinata-sama will be ready in a few minutes. After a few minutes, the doors to Hinata's house opened. Naruto, said a cheerful Hinata. Naruto turned around to see Hinata, only for his eyes to grow wide and brain to practically shut down. Hi wo you wow, babbled Naruto, earning a giggle from Tenten and Hinata. Hinata was wearing a light blue kimono with lavender flower petals swirling up the kimono from the base. The obite sash that was tied around her waist was a midnight blue ribbon that matched the color of her hair and was tied in a bow in the back with the ends dangling down to about ankle length. As for her hair, Hinata had her hair pinned up in the back in kind of a loose bun with her bangs hanging down to frame her face as normal. Naruto, do you like how I look? Asked Hinata to a still frozen Naruto. It was at this time that Hanabi made her way out and gave Naruto a little nudge, snapping him out of his trance. Amazing, was all he could still manage to get out. This caused Hinata to blush and begin fiddling with her fingers in turn. Naruto immediately went over to Hinata, took her arms and went in for a kiss. Ahem, coughed Hiyashi as Naruto was stopped before he could give Hinata a kiss. Both Naruto and Hinata turned a bit red at that. Sorry, apologized Naruto, rubbing the back of his head. It appears as if you got here safely, so we won't have to worry about a repeat of 5 months ago, will we? Asked Hiyashi. No. No one tried to attack me or even call me demon. Although I was almost scared that a mob would come running after me when I did hear someone yell out, demon, but that was just Tora hijacking some fish stand, replied Naruto. I don't know, I came straight through the main festival area and no one really seemed to mind. Very well, I have actually noticed that you seem to be more accepted by the village and I don't think you should have any issues tonight. As such, I will entrust Hinata's safety to you for the night. I expect her home unharmed by 11:30 at the latest, said Hiyashi. Yes, and thank you Hiyashi-sama, bowed Naruto. He and Hinata soon exited the clan compound on their way to enjoy the festival. They had about 4 hours to enjoy the festival itself before the fireworks started and Naruto already had a spot staked out to watch them from. Daddy, said Hanabi, tugging on her father's robes and trying to look as cute and innocent as possible. Hiyashi looked down at his youngest daughter. It was very rare that either of his daughters called him Daddy. Usually, they referred to him as Father. This immediately told him that Hanabi wanted something. I've never been to a festival. Can we go? Please. Hiyashi was actually a little surprised. The last time he had taken either of his daughters to a festival was when his wife was still alive and before Hanabi was born. Neither of them had mentioned anything about a festival until just recently. Perhaps that was due to him being extremely strict and they were both afraid that they would be scolded by him for asking to do such a thing. However, he had recently begun to change his whole outlook on his family and open up. Perhaps that's what prompted Hanabi to ask. I wonder if Shota is still selling his batter-fried tempura, thought Hiyashi out loud. Hanabi instantly smiled, knowing that her father was now considering going. Hanabi was already dressed in a dark red kimono with gold and silver firework patterns exploding throughout the kimono. As Naruto and Hinata walked through the festival areas, they were already enjoying themselves. This wasn't like their first date where they sat in silence for the first hour. They were already laughing and playing with the big cone of cotton candy that Hinata had. The two would take turns feeding each other while a piece that got stuck on one another's lips or nose would give the other an excuse to give them a slight kiss. A few patrons noticed the happy couple, and it wasn't so much Naruto who caught their attention, but Hinata. Most of these people remembered the shy and timid girl who was always unhappy with her life, but what was walking through the town was one who was genuinely happy and laughing. She was comfortable with herself and she showed it. For Naruto, no one was looking at him as a demon tonight. As a matter of fact, no one could see a hint of demon in the blonde that was walking down the street. There was no way a demon could be smiling and laughing like that. The couple came to a stand that sold festival masks and props, and Naruto immediately went for a large white ceremonial wig. Mount Myoboku's holy perverted sage, also known as Ero Sennin. I am the epitome of perviness, the one and only super pervert. I am Jiraiya, said Naruto, imitating Jiraiya's dance and introduction pose, earning multiple laughs from people observing. After mocking his teacher a little more, Naruto handed back the wig and he and Hinata picked out a pair or festival masks. Hinata's was a white tiger with black stripes on it. Naruto had spotted a mask that looked like a fox, but opted against it, not wanting to give the villagers a reason to ruin his night. Next to it was a reddish mask that resembled Gamabunta. He chose that one, and also felt it was more amusing for his date. Moving on, Naruto and Hinata continued down the street, only to be nearly flattened by Sasuke, wearing a solid dark blue kimono, who looked as if he was running for his life, and he was. Behind him was a horde of about half a dozen horny fangirls. Shadow clone jutsu, shouted Naruto, reacting quickly and creating about a dozen clones that were transformed into Sasuke around the original. The clones broke off in various directions, taking with the fangirls following behind, thinking their Sasuke was the real one. It's safe now. Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief as he came out from hiding behind one of the festival stands. I swear those fangirls are going to be the death of me, retorted Sasuke. Oh come on, they can't be that bad, said Naruto, receiving a death glare from his teammate. They're evil, I tell you. They truly are demon spawns, commented Sasuke. They're the same as those mobs that wanted to kill you on your birthday, only they want to rape me endlessly. Okay, said Naruto. Anyways, shouldn't you be picking Sakura up right now? I was going to, until I was ambushed, said Sasuke as he turned around to head back towards Sakura's home, Naruto and Hinata following. Sasuke knocked on the door of Sakura's house and it was a pink-haired man who answered. Sakura. There's a handsome young man waiting for you. Kazashi called out through the house. She'll be a few minutes, why don't the three of you come inside for a moment? Sasuke, Naruto, and Hinata stepped inside the Haruno's residence. It was fairly simple, but it had everything necessary for a comfortable home. As they took a seat, Naruto could feel the tension in the room. It was a tension he was very familiar with, having dealt with Hiyashi before. For a few minutes, there was an awkward silence in the house as Kazashi and Sasuke just simply stared at each other. Well, I had to go through this already, I guess it's only fair he has to, thought Naruto. Is something bothering you? Haruno-san? Asked Sasuke. And so it begins, said Kurama. Yep, it'll be funny to see Sasuke sweat a little, thought Naruto. No, not much really. However, I do want to make one thing clear, said Kazashi, sending Sasuke that look, the one only a protective father could give. You see, Sakura is very precious to me, and as her father, I only want what's best for her. I want to see her happy and smiling. Do you get where I'm going? I do. You don't have to worry, sir. I won't do anything to harm or upset Sakura. That I promise, replied Sasuke. On the outside, his composure was perfect, but he was sweating heavily on the inside from whatever energy Kazashi was sending towards him. The best way to describe it would be fatherly intent, and it had the same effect as Ki did on fresh genin only on a daughter's new boyfriend. Good, said Kazashi, as he began skillfully fiddling with a knife. Because if I find out that you've upset or disrespected my daughter in any form, I don't give a crap what the council says, you will be the last Uchiha. Am I clear? Why yes, sir, stuttered Sasuke. Kazashi had officially made it onto Sasuke's very short list of people he truly fears. Dad, are you scaring people again? Asked Sakura as she came down the stairs. Sasuke's reaction at that point practically mirrored Naruto's reaction when he first saw Hinata. Sakura saw Naruto, Hinata, and Sasuke in the living room. She waved to the already official couple in the room before turning to Sasuke. Sasuke. Hi sa amayu. Babbled Sasuke, causing Sakura and Hinata to giggle. It was at this time that Sasuke made his way over to Sakura. Sakura had on a white kimono with some blooming cherry tree branches on it while the wind blew some of the blossoms off with it. She had her hair up in a tight bun, as opposed to the loose one Hinata had, with two large hairpins holding it in place. Wow, glad I wasn't like that, commented Naruto. No, Sasuke didn't freeze up for 5 minutes afterwards, said Hinata as Naruto's head dropped in shame. Okay you four, get over here, called out Mebuki, holding a camera in her hand. A few pictures later and the four of them were out the door of the Haruno residence, much to Sasuke's relief. Sasuke! Cried a few shrieks that sent Sasuke cowering in fear behind Sakura. Before they could get any closer to Sasuke, they were stopped in their tracks by a massive key that was coming from Sakura. I suggest you leave, now. Barked Sakura. She would give these fangirls one last chance before things got real ugly. One of the girls made a comment about their hair and how Sasuke could possibly like someone for having short hair. Actually, the funny thing about that whole Sasuke liking long hair rumor, said Naruto, grinning and rubbing the back of his head. I was actually the one to start it. All the fangirls looked over at Sasuke for some form of comfort, knowing that they had been pleasing Naruto Baka instead of Sasuke. It's true, was all he said. The four of them were then able to walk away quietly from a devastated bunch of fangirls. On their way through the festival, the four of them ran into a pair they had never thought possible. Shikamaru. All four of them said simultaneously. Shikamaru simply groaned as a certain Suna blonde standing next to him merely waved at him. Wait, don't tell me the two of you are here on a date, asked Naruto. Why would I want to go on a date with this troublesome woman, said Shikamaru. What was that you lazy ass, shouted Tamari. It's not like you have to be here or anything. I wish, but the Hokage assigned me to act as an escort for you and your brothers while you're still here in Konoha, groaned Shikamaru. And then there was my mother, sigh. Huh. What did your mother do? Asked Hinata. She found out about my assignment and immediately took it that I was going to take Tamari on a date to the festival. Such a troublesome woman, complained Shikamaru, irritating Tamari more. Like I said, you don't have to escort me, you lazy bum, said Tamari. I know, but I don't want to have to deal with my mother, said Shikamaru. It was then that Tamari noticed the masks on Naruto and Hinata's heads. Oh come on Shika, let's go find where they're selling those festival masks, squealed Tamari as she dragged a reluctant Shikamaru away. Shika? Asked Sakura. My ass they aren't here on a date, commented Naruto. You know Shikamaru though, it'd be too troublesome for him to admit it, retorted Sasuke. It appears that would be a favorable assumption. Naruto, Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke turned to see Shino in festival garments as well with a certain green-haired kunoichi next to him. Shino's kimono was a simple solid black with silver trimmings while Fu's was mint green around the shoulders, matching the color of her hair, and transitioning through a rainbow of colors until it was a sort of red-yellow mix at the base. Shino. Fu. Wait, are you two here on a date as well? Asked Naruto. If that is what you would call it, I won't deny, said Shino. Fu smiled and rested her head on Shino's shoulder. During her recovery time in the hospital and the move into the Aburame compound, Fu and Shino got to know each other a lot better to the point where Shino offered to accompany her to the festival, as he put it. At this time, a firefly landed on the tip of Fu's nose as it lit up, causing everyone, except Shino, to laugh, although Shino was probably laughing on the inside. It was starting to get later into the night and the sound of drums and music was beginning to make its way through the village. This meant that the parade was coming through and the fireworks would follow shortly after. Streets were usually crowded along the parade route, but thankfully for Naruto and Hinata, the parade passed right by Ichiraku Ramen and Teuchi had been kind enough to allow them to watch the parade from the rooftop of the ramen shop. The parade was a spectacle full of floats, music, and dancing. Naruto did remember parades like this from observing them in the past, but nothing beat watching it with Hinata in his arms. As soon as the parade concluded, Naruto and Hinata were off. The conclusion of the parade indicated only about 30 minutes until the fireworks started and they had to be sure to get their spot, seeing as Naruto was entitled to it in a way. Yes, that spot was none other than the Yondaim's head. The fireworks were shot from a training ground to the northeast of the mountain, giving them a nice view of the fireworks. You know, I'm going to miss this place, said Naruto as they sat down upon his father's head. This caused Hinata to sniggle into him a little for comfort. But I bet you're going to have lots of exciting stories to tell when you return, said Hinata. Yeah, I guess you're right. And you'll be the first one to hear those stories, said Naruto, getting a smile out of Hinata. Honestly, I'm really excited about this trip. 3 whole years to get stronger and see the world, but I kind of wish that I would have a chance to see my friends and you during those years. I know, and I don't like it that you have to leave, but I know you have to do so to get stronger, said Hinata. And don't worry, I'm going to get strong as well. I'm not going to let you take on everything alone. Thanks, Haim. I know you'll become stronger and you'll become even prettier than you are now, said Naruto, causing Hinata to blush at the compliment. In return, she moved in to give him the kiss that her father had denied them back at the compound, and the moment their lips met, fireworks exploded throughout the village. As their kiss came to an end, Naruto leaned back to rest against the rock as Hinata laid herself down on top of the blonde. 3 years without Naruto, all she wanted to do right now was cuddle closely to him and savor the remaining time they had together. Sasuke and Sakura had found a spot upon a higher branch in a large tree on top of a hill that overlooked the fireworks. The fireworks had already started and the pair was sitting side by side. At some point, Sasuke changed his posture so that he was leaning back against the trunk of the tree instead of just sitting on the branch. Sensing this, Sakura moved as well, realizing that Sasuke simply wanted to change the position they were sitting in and not trying to get away from her. It's now or never, thought Sakura nervously, as she got closer to where Sasuke was. She had to do it now as this was the perfect opportunity. Her heart began beating faster as she inched her way towards her longtime crush. However, before Sakura could make her move, Sasuke made his, pulling her into him, his hands wrapped around her waist, and pressing his lips softly, yet firmly against hers. It was finally happening, something she had been dreaming about since the early days of the academy. Sasuke was actually kissing her. She felt like she was floating off into heaven at that very moment. Their lips slowly parted as Sakura readjusted herself so that she was now laying against Sasuke with her head resting against his chest. Sasuke wrapped his arm around her back and placed it on her waist as she wrapped her fingers around his hand. Sakura was the happiest she had ever been. That kiss left her fully satisfied, yet at the same time, begging for more. It was official, she and Sasuke were finally a couple. Cha. Take that all you psychotic bitches. I kissed Sasuke. He's mine, all mine, cheered inner Sakura in celebration. As Sakura rested against him, Sasuke's head began spinning with thoughts. In the past, he had practically isolated himself. He isolated himself out of fear that Itachi would return and take everything he held close to him away. He was afraid that night would repeat itself. He had promised himself that he wouldn't move on until Itachi was dead, yet here he was with Sakura in his arms and he didn't want to let go. It was probably the first time since his mother was still alive that Sasuke actually felt warmth and love. So, Sasuke did the only thing he could do, he tightened his grip. I won't let him get you. I won't let Itachi take you away. That I swear, he thought. Sakura awoke drearily to a tapping on her window. Last night had been, by far, the best night of her life. She and Sasuke had officially become a couple the previous night. Last night had seemed like a dream that she never wanted to wake up from, however, the constant tapping on her window was saying otherwise. She peeled back the curtains to find a cheerful Ino standing on the balcony to her room. Hey Sakura, hurry and get dressed. There's something you don't want to miss, said Ino. Having no idea what Ino was talking about, Sakura simply went along with it and minutes later, she was out. Honestly, she would have liked a bit longer to get ready, but the way Ino was nagging her she really didn't have much time. So what's up? Asked Sakura. Oh, you'll just have to wait and see, teased Ino. The duo ran through Konoha until they came upon a familiar warehouse of sorts. Sakura instantly recognized this place as this was where all the Sasuke fangirls would go after school in their attempts at getting either Sasuke or some possession of Sasuke's. During the academy years, the Sasuke fan club had practically turned this building into a place of worship to Sasuke, complete with a shrine to house all the relics that they had gathered. Why are we here? Asked Sakura. Sure, she and Sasuke might be a couple now, but the last thing she wanted to do was publicly announce it in front of the entire fan club, which she had come to despise. Shish, they'll be here any moment, hushed Ino as she and Sakura made their way to the top of the warehouse and looked in through a small window up there. As Sakura looked in through the window, she could obviously see that a large picture was covering the shrine, although she couldn't make out what the poster was. A few minutes passed and the 24 or so remaining members of the Sasuke fan club began to file in for their routine worship. The first thing that both Sakura and Ino saw nearly made them fall through the window in a fit of laughter. As a result of the truth behind the long hair being revealed, all the fangirls had overreacted and shaved their heads so that they were now practically bald. Sakura could barely breathe as her laughter continued. She knew the fangirls were going to react in some way to Naruto telling them that he was actually the one who started the rumor, but she never imagined they would go this far. No. Sasuke, why? Screamed the fangirls. They walked in to see the picture that had been left on their shrine and immediately dropped to their knees. Sakura was confused, but Ino couldn't stop laughing. What did you do? Asked Sakura. Ino handed Sakura a picture and now she understood why the fangirls were so devastated. Somehow, Ino had managed to snap a picture of the moment her and Sasuke had their first kiss. Ino. Sakura growled while cracking a fist. Oh come on Sakura, lighten up, pleaded Ino. Sakura took a deep breath to calm down as she looked at the picture. It was a nice picture and it actually gave her a memento of her first kiss, although she would never forget the way she felt. She looked over towards Ino, who was now shaking before wrapping Sakura up in a hug. You did it. I'm so happy for you, squealed Ino. Now come on, spill it. How was it? Like Sakura, Naruto was also rudely awakened by a knocking on his door. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning and this was one day where he had been hoping to sleep in a little as he figured he would be putting as much time as possible into training during the next few years. After crawling out of bed, Naruto slipped and stumbled on some trash that he had lying around the floor. Damn, I've gotta clean before I leave, he thought while putting on a pair of shorts and opening the door. Standing outside was a familiar face to him. Ko. What are you doing here? Asked Naruto to the Hyuga standing outside his door. I'm sorry to disturb you Naruto, but Hiyashi-sama has requested that you stop by the clan compound this afternoon to join him and his family for tea. He also mentioned that you have some artifacts from your trip to Uzushiogakure that he would be most interested in seeing, in particular a certain sword and a scroll that you seem to have some across, said Ko. Okay, I'll come by this afternoon then, said Naruto. Very good, I will let Hiyashi-sama know, bowed Ko, who also handed Naruto an envelope. Also, this was taped onto your door. Naruto took the envelope and closed the door as Ko left to inform Hiyashi. Great, what does Hiyashi want now? Thought Naruto. He turned over the envelope and immediately saw a crude drawing of Jiraiya on the front. And what does Ero Sennin want? Naruto took the letter out of the envelope and began reading. Naruto, I just wanted to let you know that we will be leaving tomorrow after lunch. I have already made arrangements with Suon to take care of your apartment, although I highly recommend cleaning it. For our trip, make sure you have everything that you will need for training. Below, I have made a list of what you should bring for training, 3 sets of shinobi clothes. Don't worry, I know a nice seal that can wash them. Your standard ninja gear kunai, shuriken, sealing scrolls, etc. That Uzumaki sealing book and any other seals you may have from Uzushiogakure, your sword and special knives, whatever basic necessities you may need. I also want you to go to the Konoha Jutsu library and get a few jutsu. There's a note in here that will allow you to select 2 wind jutsu up to B rank. I also want you to grab a simple C rank fire jutsu and a simple C rank water jutsu. I feel that fire will be easy to learn because of the furball in your stomach, and if I remember, the Uzumakis were quite proficient with water jutsu. This is all I'm going to give you for ninjutsu. If there are any other ninjutsu you wish to learn, they will either have to be Uzumaki clan jutsu if there are any more in those scrolls of yours or you're going to have to make them yourself. Be ready, because when we leave, your training truly begins. Jiraiya Kakashi was leaning against a tree, leisurely reading his Ika Ika book until he felt a presence approach him. He looked up to see Guy standing there, giving one of his signature smiles and dragging a pouting and cross-armed Zabuza behind him.